You've probably seen a Hindu temple before. You know the look, the iconic tower, the sacred idol inside, that large water tank. We see a place of worship, a place of incredible beauty. But what our research shows is that underneath it all, there's something else going on entirely. It's a precision instrument.
Right, let's just dive in with a question. We almost never ask the really technical questions, do we? Why this exact angle? Why is the main corridor precisely this long? And why is the big festival on this specific day? Now, the usual answers, tradition, scripture, they're not wrong, but they're not the whole story. Turns out there's a much older technical reason for every single one of those choices.
And that quote, right there, is the core idea we're going to explore. We're going to peel back those familiar layers of devotion and story to get at the sophisticated science and engineering that's literally encoded in the stone. It's time to start asking those questions again.
So to really understand what a temple is, we first have to understand the problem its builders were trying to solve. And it wasn't a religious problem. Not at its root. It was a problem of survival.
Think about it. For an ancient farming community, survival depended entirely on timing. When do you plant the seeds? When are the monsoons going to hit? If you miss that window by just a couple of weeks, the whole crop could fail. Catastrophe. And the challenge wasn't that they didn't know this stuff. They were brilliant observers of the sky. The real problem was transmission. How do you make sure that critical data survives for 1,000 years through wars and famines and the collapse of entire civilizations?
The solution they came up with was just incredibly clever. A two-layer system. The first layer is the physical hardware, the temple itself, built from stone. It's precisely oriented, precisely measured. Stone, after all, doesn't forget. The second layer is the software, the ritual. All the festivals, the prayers, the processions, that's the cultural programming that makes sure people keep interacting with the instrument, generation after generation.
And here's the absolute key to the whole thing. The system was designed to work even if everyone forgot the science behind it. A pilgrim can bathe in the sacred tank without having a clue they're actually reading a water level gauge. A priest can perform a ceremony without realizing he's running an annual calibration sequence. Devotion became the self-perpetuating maintenance program for a scientific instrument.
Okay, so if the temple is an instrument, what are its working parts? Let's break down this stone observatory and see how it functions.
Every single element we recognize maps directly to a technical function. That idol in the inner sanctum? It's not just an object of worship, it's the target. Sunlight is meant to hit it only on very specific, important days. The long corridor leading to it? That's an optical tube focusing that beam of light. The big tower, the shikara? It's a highly sophisticated gnomon for measuring the sun. The tank is a water gauge, and the festival? Well, the festival is the annual calibration.
It's amazing what you can learn from just one simple measurement. The compass bearing of the main entrance. If it's pointed between 85 and 95 degrees, that temple is designed to mark the equinoxes. If it's between 40 and 65 degrees, it's aimed right at the summer solstice sunrise, a crucial signal for the coming monsoon. And between 115 and 140, that's marking the winter solstice, the sign to get the winter crops in the ground.
But what happens when the alignment doesn't match any of those solar events? Well, that's when it gets truly fascinating. It means it's pointing to a star. And because of the Earth's slow wobble on its axis, a process called precession, the positions of the stars drift across the sky in a massive 25,772-year cycle. So a stellar alignment is basically a timestamp. It lets us calculate when the temple was originally designed, a date that is often thousands of years older than the actual stones we see today.
All right, let's zoom in now on one of the most brilliant parts of this whole system, the temple tower itself. Because it's not just a tower, it functions as a giant, public, self-reading calendar.
That very distinct convex curve you see on a Nagara-style tower, it's not just for aesthetics. Because of that specific curve, at any time of day, only one narrow horizontal band of the surface is perfectly tangent to the sun's rays. This creates a really clear line of grazing light. And as the sun moves across the sky, this tangent band moves up and down the tower's face. All anyone had to do was look up at solar noon and see where the band was. They could tell the exact date just by looking.
And sitting at the very top of that tower is the kalash. In this system, it's not an ornament, it's the gnomon. It's the fixed 0 point for the entire instrument. The curved face of the tower below it is like a giant protractor, and the kalash is the pin at its center. And here's the engineering brilliance of it. The kalash gives you a second, totally independent measurement. At solar noon, its shadow falls straight down the face of the tower. The very tip of that shadow lands on a specific layer of stone that corresponds to the date. This reading cross-confirms the position of that tangent band of light. Two different measurements giving the exact same result. That's built-in redundancy, and it's the hallmark of any good precision instrument.
Now, the scale on this giant stone protractor was made in a few different ways. Some towers have these circular carvings that become perfectly half-lit when the tangent band passes over them. Others use vertical ribs that create these super clear shadow patterns. And still others have stepped horizontal layers. Different looks, different hardware, but they're all running the same calendrical software.
But amongst all these intricate markings and carvings, the most critical piece of information is actually communicated by nothing at all. On some of these towers, there's a single, very conspicuous, plain band of stone. No carvings, no circles, no ribs. It's not an unfinished part, it's the most important signal the instrument sends. Imagine the community watching that band of light travel down the tower, day after day, week after week. Its arrival at this blank course is completely unmistakable. It's an unambiguous signal. It is plain so that it cannot possibly be misread. It's the action threshold. It is the instrument shouting one critical instruction to the entire community: now. Sow your crops now.
So let's zoom out. How does this all build from a single brilliant instrument into a coordinated subcontinent-wide network? Well, the code wasn't just in the stone. It was also hidden in the stories, the festivals, and even in the gods themselves.
That sacred temple tank, the Kalyani, is essentially a calibrated gauge of the regional water budget. The steps that lead down into the water, that's the scale. And the water line's position on those steps gives a clear, public reading of how much water ground is available. This isn't just about ritual bathing, it's a vital piece of hydrological data for everyone.
And the annual festival, that's the system's calibration event. First, when the whole community gathers on that main alignment date, they are all collectively verifying that, yep, the sunbeam still hits the idol, the shadow still falls on the mark. Then the procession, when the idol is carried out and brought back, that's not just a parade. It forces a physical reset, making sure the target, the idol, is put back in its exact calibrated position for the next year. Even the deities themselves start to look like a highly specific labeling system. Shiva, the great transformer, is associated with the Ardra nakshatra, the star that marks the violent, transformative onset of the monsoon storms. So a Shiva temple is an instrument built to monitor and announce the monsoon. Vishnu, the preserver, is linked to the Shravana nakshatra and the agricultural rest season. Vishnu sleeping is a celestial instruction. Preserve your resources, the time for action is over, for now.
Now zoom all the way out. One temple is one data point. But what about 12? The famous 12 Jyotirlingas, all dedicated to Shiva, are spread across the Indian subcontinent. Looked at this way, they aren't just 12 sacred sites. They are 12 sensor nodes in a distributed, continent-wide network for monitoring the single most important weather event for survival, the monsoon. A network like this could track the monsoon front's speed and direction, creating a climate model of incredible sophistication.
So, in the end, what is a god in this system? It's not about denying belief. It's about revealing something even more intricate. The ancient builders took their vast scientific knowledge and personified it. They took the complex data of the monsoon's arrival and gave it a name, Shiva. The story became the memory aid. The emotion of devotion powered the ritual, and the ritual ensured the transmission of that critical survival data for millennia. The gods, then, are a kind of data compression technology, a way for a community's hard-won knowledge to guide it through time, in a form it would cherish and protect forever.